Good evening, everyone. So this will be our first session on RLP current affairs. So you might be already familiar with the format of RLP. Our major agenda for these classes is to have a broad overview on first what are the major developments that is happening. We have seen in the prelims this year also most of the question that is coming from current developments that is picked from just 2, 3, 4 months just before the prelims. So whatever that is happening right now, right in last 2 months, when you prepare current affairs for say any subject, whether it is IR, whether it is society or polity, whatever is the subject, what is the hot topics that is in discussion in these months, in August, in as well as July, that carries huge weightage, huge high chance of coming in the mains examination next month. So there should be a bias in your current affairs preparation. So just familiarizing yourself with all these topics, that is the first agenda of these sessions. Secondly, our major focus will not be to teach you any content, but to teach you or to focus on how to write better answers. Even I recently go through a lot of face-to-face discussions with students. We see many mistakes in understanding the questions, in proper structuring of the answer, where to give weightage, where to make diagrams, where not to make diagrams, where to write a little bit extra, where to write a little bit longer introduction, were to focus a little bit more on conclusion. There is some certain normalcy to all of these, and where this normalcy is coming from? Coming from discussions with a lot of toppers last couple of years, seeing their copies, going through analyzing their copies. So this is something for any student who is writing mains 2024. Content, I'm forgetting about it. Content, you may be having very good content, you may be having less content, so your answers may not be 2 pages. This is all going to happen. But if you're making a mistake in structuring the answer, if you're making a mistake in not writing the demand of the answer, then the whole exercise of answer writing is futile. This is one mistake which you should completely eliminate in your answer writing, especially if you are writing this year mains. Fix this thing in your mind. You are not going to make a mistake on not addressing the demand of the question. This is the whole premise what you should look for in these classes. We will be having one session today. We will be discussing 6 questions, and we will be having next session tomorrow. We will be taking another set of 6 topics. So let's get started. This is the first question. Read the question, go through it. If you are watching it online, you can post a video or brainstorm it. Then we will continue the discussion. Yeah. What is the question? Subcategorization, subclassification, or subcategorization is one of the means to achieve substantive equality. The doctrine of classification gives content to guarantee of equal protection of laws. Examine. So where this question is coming from, why we are discussing this particular question, you might be quite well aware of the recent Supreme Court judgment regarding subcategorization or subclassification of reservation policies in SC and STs. We'll discuss this case in a little bit more detail. Why we are discussing? Because if you've gone through recent editorials, recent comments from political as well as other spectrum, there is many confusion on what exactly is meant by Supreme Court. There is many confusion on, does this judgment directly means that there should be creamy layer implemented to SC/STs? Or does this judgment simply talks about categorization within SC/STs? Or a lot of other things. We have seen comments from different various sections of the society. So in UPSC perspective, if you are expecting questions from this, expect some question on conceptual understanding of this particular judgment. So again, what makes this another element of difficulty to this question is bringing in the concept of substantive equality. At least if you have gone through what the judgment is, different interpretations of the judgment given by a lot many people within these different editorials, as well as if Supreme Court itself has given a summarized judgment. At least if you have gone through this, you have seen the reference to substantive equality, and different multitudes of substantive equality has been discussed throughout in this. So you should have a clarity on understanding what exactly is substantive equality. Rest, there is some lack of confusion regarding what exactly is this quotation means. So what should be different parts of this answer? First part of the answer, you need an introduction. What the introduction should be absolutely clear about the context of this case. There is no doubt why this case is being picked, why subclassification is being picked. It is picked because there has been a Supreme Court judgment regarding this. So your introduction will be specifically writing about what exactly has been the Supreme Court judgment. Then your body should have basically three parts. First part should be how this particular judgment is a step towards substantive equality as well as equal protection of laws. That should be your first part. This will be one of the major part of our answer. Then you should write about, your keyword here is examine. So your answer should require a little bit of analysis. Even though this is a Supreme Court judgment, it is quite difficult to counter Supreme Court judgment. But we have seen even this case is being done in 6:1 majority. There is one judge who has given the counter argument. Some of her arguments or some of the political comments that has came after this, you can combine this and make a criticism and challenges of implementing this particular judgment. That forms our second part of the body or third part of the answer. Again, your majority of points should be here, 6-7 points. Here maybe a lesser points, 3-4 points. Secondly, next part should be way forward, how this particular judgment should be interpreted by the governance, by different levels of government, and you can give 3-4 points regarding this. Then you need a conclusion. Conclusion, again, I strongly vote against writing a very generic conclusion. This is an area where you should keep a little bit of attention. You might need to pick up certain things, whether it is be a quotes, whether it is be certain SDGs, whether it is constitutional articles. Specifically learn those for conclusion. This is something which your examiner or anyone who is evaluating your answer read the last before giving you the marks. So don't keep your conclusion completely generic. Even though yours either part of your answer is generic, keep something substantial for your conclusion. This is the whole structure of this answer. It is a 15-mark questions. 250 words, you will be having 3 pages. So fairly you should divide it across these 3 different sections, and some questions you will find it difficult to include all these different sections. In that question, keep in mind that whatever space you have, 10 marks, it is 2 pages. Sometimes you see 2 or 3 questions for a 10 markers. So don't overwrite either of the sections. Keep yourself to the limit and address each and every part of this. This is something which you should not or you cannot miss out. So a little bit introduction, you will speak about this Davinder Singh versus State of Punjab case 2024. This is the particular name of the case. I have seen many students write something that comes into your mind. Supreme Court case on subcategorization. It is technically there is no mistake in writing those, but it is always better to be a little bit more specific. Learn the name. It is Davinder Singh versus State of Punjab case 2024. It is in this case Supreme Court has came up with the judgment, and when we speak about the judgment, be very, very clear. What exactly is Supreme Court told? Supreme Court told that subclassification of SC and ST categories is permissible and states have the power to create subclassifications. So this categorization of ST and SCs for the purpose of reservation is permissible under the ambit of law. This is exactly what Supreme Court has said. This will form our introduction. Let's learn some of the concepts of substantive equality. What exactly is substantive equality? Again, what exactly is equality? Like justice, like freedom, like liberty. We have different conceptualization of equality. What exactly is equality? Equality, does it mean sameness? What is our constitutional interpretation of equality? We have articles 14 to 18 which speaks about different types of equalities. And what exactly are the equality we speaking about? We have two different versions of equality, that is equality before law and equal protection of the law. Equality before law, what does it mean? It means you should not have any titles, you should not have any different categorization of treatment by the law. Second, equal protection of the law. So these are few categorization of equality under Article 14. How does it fit in this particular case? Now, even though constitutions speak about equality, we here are in no way speaking about sameness. Constitution of India, the conceptualization of equality is not sameness. Whom to be treated equal? What does the constitution says about this? Somebody who is in a similar situation should be treated equally. So that already implies one thing: somebody who is having a different situation, somebody who is not similar in, say, social status, in economic status, or in any other backwardness indicators, they need not be treated equally. That's why we have a sub clause under Article 14. That means even though we have equal protection of law as well as equality before the law, state is permissible to make objections, or state is permissible to make changes to this with respect to these socially as well as economically backward classes. Now, this is what the law says. Indian law is not equality. The notion of equality under the Constitution of India, it's not just about sameness. It is also about qualitatively we are trying to bring in the concept of equality. Now, when we extrapolate this one step ahead, what we have already told, that if you are not, your starting points are different. If you are starting from different elements, you may not be having treated equally. You may be, some certain sections of the society will be needing preferential treatment, and that's why we have these reservation systems. Now, take one step ahead. That means whether we have within our SC, scheduled caste as well as scheduled tribes, we have a huge variety of different castes. This is not one particular caste. We have multitude of castes. This nature, the character, the social status, all these changes according to locations. In South India, the SC/ST has different dynamics. In Northeast India, the SC/ST categories has different dynamics. In Northern India, also these Gangetic Plains, we have different conceptualization of these SC/STs. Now, since all these have different characters, when we treat or make policies for SC and STs, should we treat them as a single homogeneous group, or should we make different policies for different groups under different categorization depending on backwardness within this ST and SC category group? This is what Supreme Court was looking at, whether the concept of substantive equality, is it generally applying, or it should be applied within this ST group, SC group, or other backward classes, economic weaker section groups. Should we inside this categorization also, should we apply the concept of substantive equality? This was what Supreme Court was, you can say, exploring in this particular case. And we have this other previous judgment. One is this N.M. Thomas versus Union of India judgment in 1976. E.V. Chinnaya versus State of Andhra Pradesh judgment in 2004. In both these judgments, what Supreme Court has clearly stated is the SC as well as the ST category. What is the legal basis? If any group is are included within the Article 341 of the Constitution, they may be considered as SC and STs. Now, what both these judgment have concurrently said that if this any particular group is included within this group, there should not be any subcategorization. There should not be any differential treatment for any of the caste within who is considered as SC or ST. That means, in essence, what they are speaking is the SC and ST category, they are a homogeneous category, and there should not be any preferential or differential treatment within these groups. They are a homogeneous category. This was the judgment in 1976 and 2004, and these two judgment has been overturned by this particular judgment, which says that there is no concept of homogeneity within SC and ST category. There is no social homogeneity within them. There is no historical homogeneity within them. There is no status homogeneity within them. So considering the social reality of the present times, there should be subcategorization. There should be, or the concept of substantive equality should be extended to these groups. So this is the two judgments which the current judgment have overturned. Now there is so much reference to Indira Savane case or the famous Mandal case. Why this is being referred to? Because it is in this case which Supreme Court says that subcategorization, we already have this idea of subclassification or subcategorization, especially in OBCs. But this judgment specifically says that whatever the subcategorization that was being spoken in this particular case is only applicable to other backward classes. So whether it is only applicable to other backward classes or it should be extended to other categories like SC or ST or economic weaker section or any other classifications. So Supreme Court, again the judgment says that in the recent case there is no such a limit that this subcategorization or the substantive equality should be limited to OBCs. It should be limited to each and every other policies of the government. It should not be limited to certain groups or certain class or certain XYZ group of people. So this is, do states have the power for create a classification? Obviously states have the power to do this classification. That is what is the judgment is all about. What should be the criteria for subclassification? The criteria should be inadequate representation. If there is inadequate representation in government jobs, in any other XYZ criteria, if that inadequate representation can be proven with data, with verifiable data, then that is the essential most important quality for, or you can say criteria for including doing this subcategorization within these groups. Now Supreme Court also speaks about what does this inadequate representation means. Supreme Court speaks about it is not simply about numbers. We have seen so many castes, even though so welcome back. There was some technical issue with the screen. So I think we are good to go now. So what we were discussing the basis of this particular case. We have discussed how this N.M. Thomas versus Union of India case, as well as E. Chinnaya versus State of Andhra Pradesh case has been overturned. The idea that these SC and ST categories form a homogeneous group, this idea has been overturned by the recent judgment, which speaks about extending the idea of substantive equality to these other categories of the sections within SC and ST. Now, do state have the power? Yes. What is the criteria? There we have already spoken about that inadequate representation. And within this inadequate representation, it is not simply talking about the numbers. That means how you check the representation, how many of these caste people are in government jobs. But Supreme Court is also speaking about qualitative representation. Certain castes are not represented at the highest level. Certain, we have seen multitude of reports which speaks about none of the judges are ST or SC categories. IIT professors, none of these, many IITs, this mandate on this much person should be SC, ST, all these are being violated. At higher levels, there is highly narrowing representation of various castes. And at certain castes are only getting represented at the lower levels of the jobs, group D jobs or at this level jobs. So this has been identified by Supreme Court. So when we speak about inadequate representation, it is not simply about the numbers, it is about qualitative representation. That means where these particular castes are getting represented. That is also should be taken into consideration when states bringing this idea of subcategorization. In subclassification, you can see some of the verdict speaking about two different models of implementing this particular idea. Most important part of this is there should be judicial review or judicial oversight when states are being, this particular caste has been included within or without of this categorization. There should be a judicial oversight. That means people can go to Supreme Court if there is a violation of certain principles that we have discussed here. Now why this is being brought in, just to stop political misuse. We have seen a lot of state going for OBC reservation, where a lot of state agitation happening from Jat community, from Patidar community in Gujarat. Maharashtra, there is the concept of son of soils. So all this agitation is, what is the purpose? The purpose is to get some political benefits by forcing the party in power to take certain actions. So to stop these kind of misuses, we have brought in a checks and balances system, that there will be judicial oversight to whatever subclassification that is happening. Now the most important or the most controversial concept of all these judgment, that is regarding the creamy layer concept. What its judgment speak about creamy layer? Out of the 6:1 majority, we have told that there was this 6:1 majority, this verdict was decided. So in this case, 4 judges out of the 6 judges spoke about extending creamy layer to SC and ST categories. Currently, we have creamy layer to OBC reservations based on this income criteria. Income of say 12 lakhs or something, if it is above that, then it will be considered as this creamy layer. So 4 judges have suggested extending the concept of creamy layer to the other sections, that is SC, ST and other sections of reservations. But this is not a major part of the judgment. This is not the direct indication of the judgment or direct consequence of the judgment. It is prerogative of the government whether it like to extend the creamy layer concept or not. The major prerogative of this judgment is subclassification that can be introduced within SC and ST categories. So this is something which you should understand. This judgment is not directly about creamy layer concept, and government has already made the stance clear that it is not going to implement the creamy layer extension to SC and ST categories. So there is obviously no change that is going to happen. Obviously there is high chance that how this judgment will alter the status quo of the current reservation system. That is yet to be seen, how the government is going to interpret this judgment, or whether government is going to completely neglect this judgment. There has been some extreme talks like from the parties like Mayawati's party, which she spoke about or asked the government to bring in a constitutional amendment act to nullify this particular judgment. So there has been different takes, different interpretations of this judgment, but conceptually these are the list of the things you should understand. And your answer, if you understand all these dynamics, all these concepts we have discussed here, I hope you can write a very easy answer in this question. First part of the question, how this particular concept or this judgment or subclassification or subcategorization, how it leads to substantive equality or equal protection of laws, addressing idea historical inequality. A lot of examples this Supreme Court has cited, like you can write about this, forgot the caste name, the caste, certain caste like Balmikis in Haryana, which although they are huge in population, they are highly underrepresented. Similarly, the Supreme Court has taken examples of certain castes in Andhra Pradesh, in Tamil Nadu, where there are huge population, but they are highly inadequately represented. At the opposite end, there are certain castes which have not huge population margin, but they are getting big chunk of the benefits of reservation policies. So there is historical inequality. There is empirical basis for fairness to bring in this concept, as we have discussed. Certain caste are getting all the benefits of reservation. Effective representation, that means it will be fairly distributed within the substantive equality or formal equality. That means extending the concept, the constitutional idea of equality within the groups of SC/STs. Legal framework provisions, Article 341. doesn't limits the power of the government to bring in any subclassification or subcategorization. Social mobility, judicial oversight. That means there are certain checks and balances that is proposed by this Supreme Court judgment itself, which limits the power of the government to do something that is completely out of the league or completely politically motivated decisions. So even though the Supreme Court at one point speaks about idealism of substantial inequality, on the other hand it is well aware of the political interest or political pressures that is also governing the different decisions, and it itself within the judgment has put some checks and balances, which is to ensure that there is proper application of this particular judgment. Second, third part of our answer will be criticisms and challenges against this particular judgment. Lack of comprehensive data. Like if you remember the election campaign, Rahul Gandhi has been so vocal about this caste census. Still in the parliament, he has made the statement on caste census. Why there is so much connect or there is so much caste census is becoming an issue. Major reason is we actually don't have any actual caste data, especially regarding OBCs. We don't have any. Even SC/ST we have generic data, but we don't have any data, socioeconomic data on categories of SC/ST communities. Caste-wise, social, economic, educational status, we don't have any data. So where we will refer to is only data that is done before is in 1931. So we are not going to depend on those data. Or Mandal Commission report also, it's being quite outdated right now. It is formed in 1980s. Report came in 1990s, so that's not reliable data to look upon. So again, without lack of data, there is huge chance for manipulation. So that is the biggest risk of fragmentation. So far, we have seen that the benefits of policy of reservation has been qualitatively improvised or fairly make sure that there is representation of certain caste in various jobs. So whether is something that is already working good or decently performing, are we altering it something, and whether there is a risk of backfiring. Complexity in criteria. States can define criteria. Supreme Court cannot completely, like in governors, different powers of the governors, states or constitution, they can give only like purposeful ideas. Exact categories of criteria that may changes depending on from state to state. Southern state, we have discussed, northeastern state or northern state, they will have different criteria for classification, and this can also lead to litigations, complexities, judicial and legal challenges. This can be we already told that this litigation can, all these steps under this can be subjected to judicial review, and it can be time consuming if some case has led to the Supreme Court and there is legal complications raised regarding this. Political manipulation, there is always a risk of political manipulation. Politically, this is a very hot topic even for the ruling party or for the opposition party, how they are going to position themselves regarding with this judgment. Even though right now, as we have seen, there is some sort of a similarity in how ruling party and opposition party is responding, but when it comes to how this is interpreted within each states, the tone of parties can change. The tone of parties can look for political mileage out of this. So there is a risk of political manipulation. Way forward, whether any of these caste related or reservation policies, there, if any of the substantial changes to be need, we need a data mechanism. Already the 2021 census is due. We really don't know when the census is going to happen. We are still operating on a data that is, say, 12-13 years back, and this is very big limitations for all the policy making. We still don't know the actual migration data, the actual woman XYZ, woman maternal mortality or this healthcare data. We doesn't really have credible data, and we are making policies based on an outdated data system. This is something which is very bad. And when it is coming to the case of caste, again we have structural issues. Our caste system, even this census doesn't capture the performance of each and every caste. So, and caste, the idea of doing a caste census throughout India, that has been rejected by the Prime Minister or this ruling party. So it's very difficult to where these states are going to get this data. A lot of policies, if you have seen, we have been relying on socio-economic caste census of 2011. But again that is being getting outdated. So we need something credible. We need a solid data system first, when before we even can think of implementing policies like this. Clear criteria and transparency. There should be national level criteria. Otherwise, it's going to be stretched to any extent within the states, and that can lead to litigations, manipulation, all these kind of things. So we need central government or parliament need to set certain criteria on the basis of which the states can operate, or state can define the subcategorizations. Judicial oversight, this is already provided by the Supreme Court, and which should play a much active role, not just in the litigation stage, in other stages also the involvement of judges can be extended to the particular cases. Holistic development programs, again when we speak about caste, when we speak about Ambedkarite ideas. Ambedkarite ideas was not this, like 70 years or 80 years after independence, you still fight for the caste-based reservation. You still uphold your caste identity. This was not what Ambedkar was propounding. He was speaking about a casteless society. So our ultimate objective should be moving toward a casteless or caste classless society, and this is what we should aspire, and not just crystallization of caste identities. So these things, you public engagement, consensus building, very very important. You have seen government taking a lot of U-turns in various decisions. You have seen this new pension scheme, or you can say this UPS that is being implemented, and government is saying that 50% of your last 12 months salary will be your pension, basic pay pension. So this is a U-turn from the NPS scheme, which was 100% contributory pension scheme. So government has again lateral entry case. Government has came up with the UPSC has came out with the notification, and within just some criticism, government has gone back to this. So rather than coming up with a policy and calling it back, government should proactively first engage with the stakeholders who have concerns regarding implementation of these policies, whether it is caste groups or caste pressure groups or caste NGOs. All these stakeholders should be brought into the table before any finalization on this policy is being considered. So these are different way forward ideas you could use in your answers. Conclusion, again, you can speak about how this particular judgment is a step, obviously a step towards extending the concept of substantive equality, and this is extending the constitutional principles which we have discussed. So you can write this in a 2-line conclusion and finish your answers. Let's move to the next question. Go through the question, then we will continue our discussion. So what this question is based on? Yeah, this question is basically based on this unfortunate rape and murder case that happened at this particular RG Medical College, Kolkata. So let's read the question once. If women are not able to go to work and conditions are not safe, we are denying them equality. Statement directly made by Chief Justice of India D.Y. Chandrachud. In wake of recent tragic incidents at RG Medical College, Kolkata, what measures can be done to ensure safety of women at workplace? So again, conceptually, what is this question speaking about? It's connecting two things, that is work conditions or safe working conditions of women to the principle of equality. Again, the constitutional article 14 to 18, the constitutional principles of equality is brought into the tables. So these two principles are brought in together by this statement by Chief Justice of India D.Y. Chandrachud, and major part of the answer is what steps, what measures can be taken to improve the situation or change the situation. That is our crux of the answer. So what will be different parts of this answer? Again, introduction, what that will be directly, what is the context? What is the context? There has been a very brutal, or you can say humanity crunching, this rape and murder case. That episode has happened at this Arjikar hospital in Kolkata. This is obviously context, so we'll make it the introduction. One line introduction, that is all you needed. Major part of the body will be, this is not major part. Second part will be something that substantiates the statement. Statement connect two things, that is safety of women at workplace and equality. You have different evolution. If you look at safety of women at workplace, you already might be aware of this Vishaga guidelines. Vishaga guidelines put forward by Supreme Court in late 1990s, and it takes another 1.5 decades for the Supreme Court to make this into a law. We already have this POSH Act, that means Prevention of Sexual Harassment at Workplace Act. We have this POSH Act, which is the current legal framework which deals with these kind of cases. So beyond that, what is the conceptual understanding of women's safety at workplace and right to equality, or the concept of equality, how this can be integrated? That the root cause of inequality that come from something like respect, equal respect for human dignity. So all this concept you can combine, and you can prove, you can speak about how safety of women at workplace is so much important for right to equality. But don't override, this is not what is being asked. This is something, a substantiating statement for the statement that is given. So you can limit it to say 3 points, that is maximum I expect. Then go to the major part of the answer, that is what is the measures can be taken in this particular situation. Again, we'll see how we can generate a lot of points for the measures. You don't actually require so much of specific knowledge to answer these questions. You should need only that much knowledge that a common person will have by reading newspapers. If you have read the newspapers fairly well enough in these days, you will have huge number of points to write. 2 page will be too less for you to write all the measures that is being discussed in papers. Then we need a conclusion where you can connect with the constitutional principles of equality. You can connect with the Vishaga guidelines, or you can connect with amending this POSH Act, or you can connect with the legal principles. All these things you can use in this conclusion. Again, 2-line conclusion, not beyond that I'm expecting. So let's see how it is being written. The statement, again, the context, clearing the context, that is my introduction. What is the context? The statement by D.Y. Chandrachud following the rape and murder of 31-year-old doctor trainee at Arjikar Medical College and Hospital in Kolkata underscores the critical need for women's safety at workplace. You can also connect with the protest, the ongoing protest that is going on regarding these cases. What are some of the connections of women's safety with right to equality, respect and dignity as foundational values? It is these, when we speak about ethics also we'll speak people first. That should be the motto of any civil servant. Where these people first should come from, it come from empathy towards the people, it come from compassion towards the people. Now without compassion there is no more meaning for people first. Similarly, without respect for dignity for each and every individual, there is no meaning of this equality, concept of equality, equal access of opportunities and resources. This is more like speaking about distributive justice. Then challenging the power imbalances. When we all are basically living in a patriarchal world, we still have patriarchal systems, we still have men-centric system, we still have society that is upholds, or you can say celebrates, male chauvinism compared to any female heroics. You look at the movies, you look at different incidents that is happening around you, look at where this power is actually operating, who holds the majority of land in our country, who operates, who is getting higher salaries in our country, who are sitting at the bigger positions, be it Supreme Court judges, or being it legislators, or being it ministers. All these are men-centric. We are already living in a men-centric world. And if we need a certain aspects of equality to take place in this situation. We need the simple symbolics, we need the continuing elements of patriarchy to be challenged. And in these cases like these, they create a chilling effect on any positive efforts towards equality that is being breeding up. People will dare to send their girl child out of their homes, out of their cities. In this situation, what equality are you speaking about? If women parents are worried about sending their children to colleges, say in the neighboring city, then what equality are we speaking about? Or parents are worried about sending their children to work in, say, another city or in government systems like hospitals, then what equality are we speaking about? You can bring these connections here. Third, or the major most important part of the answer should be your measures that can be taken. Before that, just a little bit on some of the responses. So, Supreme Court has taken suo motu case on this particular incident. So there has been a lot of comments that has been coming from Supreme Court regarding this. These are some of the notable information which you should keep in mind. That is, Supreme Court has urged all the parties to stop politicizing the matter and creation of a national task force which will look into the improving the safety of women at not just this hospital but in general. Investigation delays. There has been huge comment from Supreme Court Chief Justice regarding how this investigation has been handled. Why there was the FIR being registered after postmortem report. Postmortem report, as per the information, has been done at 6 to 7 p.m. The body was given to the parents at 8 p.m. The cremation has happened after that. It is after all this set of incidents. The FIR was registered at late night 11:45. So why was the delay? This is why the principal of this college, or you can say the ex-principal of the college, was taken into custody, or he was being questioned regarding this, because it is the responsibility of the principal when an incident of this gravity has happened to report to the authorities, to file an FIR. That is a bare minimum thing that should be done, and that is being delayed inordinately. What is the answer for all these kind of delays? Other steps also, there has been a lot of criticism against how the initial stages of investigation has been handled. In most of these cases, again, regarding rape or crime against women, what evidences are collected in these golden hours of investigation, that is initial hours of investigation, that plays a major role. In Nirbhaya case, why it was conviction was proven without any doubt, because there was a very rational, solid, evidence-based investigation that has happened in that particular case. But here we are missing that investigation in whole initial stages. To make things worse, we have seen the hospital authorities demolishing the crime site, demolishing the particular seminar hall. We have seen 7,000, as per the reports, people rushing into the hospitals and destroying the hospital, vandalizing the hospitals, and there was no trace of police or any security personnel. The women doctors, the remaining women doctors there are being attacked. The duty doctors are being attacked, and where is the trace of police or security? So a lot of levels, there has been a lot of questions asked on what exactly is happening, or that is why the case was initially very swiftly transferred to CBI, and even CBI, the investigation is going on. So this is being a lot of criticism against how the case was handled. SC on protesting doctors, SC is saying that doctors should not, they will not face any retaliation, and they are encouraging the doctors to come up for a peaceful resolution. Even Prime Minister on his Independence Day speech has highlighted the need for swift justice and importance of instilling fear of punishment. Again, swift justice, we need some special codes or special systems to ensure that is, at least in cases like this where there is huge public outcry, there should be some systems to bring in faster justice. Similarly, there should be deterrence. The principle of deterrence is what Prime Minister is speaking about. There should be some deterrence against these kind of criminal activities, and there should be model punishment systems. That is what Prime Minister is speaking about. More or less, he is speaking the language of parents of this particular doctor. Now, measures, what to think in measures, that should be the major part of your answer, and that should occupy the majority of the sections which of your 2 pages that is allotted for this. Measures, again, what you should keep in mind is think according to different compartments. Compartmentalized thinking, that is all you needed. Compartmentalized thinking, what it includes, what are the immediate measures, wherever there is measures to be taken, my answer will have this essential two thinking, that is immediate steps and long-term steps. Now, what are the immediate steps? Safety protocols. We already have somebody who have gone to, or you can observed in hospitals, there are different codes, code red, code violet, code yellow, all this kind of different codes for different happenings or different emergency systems. We have different codes. Most of the hospital will be missing the code gray. Code gray is speaking about attack on doctors, as sexual or a sexual attack on medical professionals, not just doctors, nurses, or any other medical professionals. That is what code gray is about. Go and check any of the hospitals in your locality. Code gray will be missing. Why code gray is missing? It's not because they are not aware of this. There will be code red, violet, other colors will be there. Gray, you might not find it because even the hospital authorities are not concerned about it. They think that this is not something that is a major thing to be included in the codes. They neglect these principles of code gray. Bring into practice, at least bring protocols for women working in these night shifts, at least bring in certain systems like the panic button systems, that like escorted transit services for women who is completing their duty at 2 o'clock, at 12 o'clock and all. So there should be some systems for these. That is the most immediate demands of the protesting doctors. Secondly, think on legal, institutional, policy, judicial, investigation. That is a major point of controversy here. Political measures, sensitization measures, support system, and obviously the long-term measures. And if you reach this point, you can at least think of one argument. Your answer will be too much to write. For example, legal measures. Again, what we need is, we already have a POSH Act. POSH Act, one of the important criteria, we need an ICC, that is Internal Compliance Committee. Where is the Internal Compliance Committee in many of the private organizations? There is no such a thing as ICC. We need these systems which is in paper to be implemented in each and every office. Now, how this can be done? There should be an audit of POSH Acts, whether it is implemented or not. If not implemented, there is need for certain actions to be taken. At least do first in the government hospitals, government institutions, government offices. So this audit of POSH Act, that is very much important. Then there should be an amendment of POSH Act which should enhance the criminal as well as civil responsibility of the employer. Employer is ultimately responsible for all these actions. In this particular case, the principal of this particular college, he cannot wash his hands of the responsibility of what has happened. Before what things has happened and after things has happened, whatever mismanagement has done, the principal is ultimately responsible for this, and he should be brought before the law. He should be criminalized, or civil suit should be filed against him. The liability should be like upheld. Institutional measures, there should be employee assistance programs, there should be specialized policies for these particular women employees. Like after this particular incident, Kerala government has came up with one program where there will be a police number, which any special dedicated number, like 112 or some other numbers will be given, dedicated number which any woman can call between 10 p.m. to 6 a.m. for any transport services, whether they are isolated at some places, they want to go from X to Y places, they can call this number if there is any safety concerns. And if there is a safety concern, this police will come and assist you to reach safely to your destination. And not that police will take you, but police will be there to nullify the safety concerns. So this is a creative initiative. We need more policies like this. We have panic buttons installed in different places of Delhi. Similarly, there should be, at least in places where women are working at night shifts, there should be some XYZ. Policy measures, mandatory gender equality training, sensitization, sensitive remote working options. At least where there is feasible, the remote working, work from home policies should be encouraged. Judicial measures, we need fast track courts. We cannot let these cases or getting delayed for say 10 years, 15 years. That should not be happening. Rajiv Gandhi culprits are still not punished. Victim centric legal processes is what required. If the when in this case the photo of this particular victim, the images, all this has been circulating in the social media. So these kind of things should not happen. There should be victims' privacy should be respected. Investigation, dedicated gender crime units, forensic and technological support. So we cannot sustain in modern world with a police system that is outdated, that is not having solid technological investigative basis. So we need to have this system in place. Political measures. We have seen last day we have seen this report. 151 of our 543 MPs have crime against women against them. It includes without distinction all major parties, Congress, BJPs or whatever it is. So when elected officials or elected peoples are itself criminals or crime against, they have huge crime against women, what you can expect in, what sensitization are we talking about? So there should be more public awareness campaigns. Women's safety should be a matter of concern in political campaigns, in political elections. Sensitization measures, gender sensitization workshops, like for employer, for police, for media, for engaging men as allies. Men is not simply part of the problem, he is also a part of the solution, and this realization should take into consideration. Support system like survivor assistance fund, peer support groups for survivors, all these systems should be taken into consideration more seriously. Long-term measures, mostly we are speaking about educational measures, educational reforms, lack of proper education, sex education, or all the other set of education. This is what essential to stop these kind of crimes, and this should start from schools. We should holistically relook what we are teaching our kids at schools. If we are still like considering sex as taboo, considering talking about these things as taboo, how we are going to build the next generation? What you can expect from a generation that is completely unaware of all these happenings around their society? We need our children to be aware of good touch and bad touch. We need our adults to be aware of their actions, their responsibilities to the society. We have living in a world of influencers, or any particular person is itself an influencer if you have a Instagram account or any other particular account. So there are certain responsibilities which comes along with this, and people should like act within these bounds of responsibilities. So these are all the measures. So what exactly are we thinking? We are thinking on different categories, different compartments, and compartments, two compartments are wherever there is measures to be asked, immediate and long term should be there. Beyond that, you can think on your own measures, legal, institutional policies, this investigation, which is specific to this case. You can bring your compartments as much as you can think of. So, conclusion, you can connect it with right to equality principles under the Constitution, which is Article 14, Article 15, and 21, right to life and personal liberty. You can connect with these and bring in this conclusion to this answer. Go through the third question, then we will continue our discussion. Yeah. What are potential benefits of introducing lateral entry into Indian civil services? Discuss associated challenges and criticisms. Quite very direct question. Can a question be more direct than this? So what are different parts? Again, about lateral entry, what is like the concept of lateral entry in civil services? You can write about this. Then what is asked? Potential benefits, challenges and criticisms. That is exactly two major parts. 5 points I expect here and 5 points I expect here. Then you can write a conclusion. You can include a way forward based conclusion if you intend to do that. Otherwise, you can write about some committee recommendations or significance of, or you can even cite the recent developments that the government has advertised for certain jobs to be filled as these lateral entrants and then withdrawn the case. So there is an episode that has happened. So you can write about this particular case and also conclude your answer. So this is what I expect from you, 5 benefits and 5 criticisms and challenges, as easy as that. So first part, lateral entry, what it means that Indian civil services involves recruiting professionals from private sector, academia or other fields directly into senior government, additional secretary, joint secretary. At this post, this recruitment is done bypassing traditional UPSC examination process. So these people with 15 years or more experiences in private sector, they will be given direct posting as additional secretary or joint secretary at the government level. So this is what this concept of lateral entry into civil services is all about. Now what are the benefits? It brings in expertise, specialization, because we are living in a, there is always a debate between generalist versus specialist. Who is more important? What is required in civil services? In traditional sense, civil services, we are making generalist. You see the UPSC examination, it has a huge syllabus. You are already reading this huge syllabus. Even after this election, you are getting exposed to huge number of trades. At the end of the day, you will be like jack of all trades and master of none. You're not getting specialization in any fields. You are just getting more and more exposure in multitude of fields. You are a generalist is approach of civil services that is traditionally being going on. But what is happening recently with the technological advancement, with the usage of technologies, apps, mobile apps in every field of governance, we need more and more specialists. We need technical persons. We need people who are skilled in public management. We need people who are skilled in gender-related policies. So the demand for skilled people, or you can say specialist skilled people, is increasing in civil services. Now how to meet that? Government, if you remember the different provisions of Mission Karma Yogi, there is a strong emphasis on skill development of the civil servants. You are encouraged to develop your skills on particular sectors. So this is a very positive step. So another approach is, one approach is improving the skills of your already existing manpower. The other approach is bring people from the outside, and that's exactly what lateral entry is doing. They bring in experts and people with specialized knowledge, whether it is IT, whether it is any other sections. Addressing officer shortages. We have seen a couple of years before this minister of this MOSPI, that is Statistics and Personal Training Minister, who spoke in this Parliament. He spoke about 1,400 vacancies at IAS level, and most of these vacancies are at middle career or mid-career level is where the vacancies are. So this is something that is like troubling the government, you can say, and we need people to be recruited at these levels, and lateral entry is one of the classical option to address these shortages. Infusing fresh perspective, again, the nature of working, which is in government sector as well as in the private sector, they're quite opposite. In private sector, the efficiency or the productivity, that is giving all due importance, whereas in government sector you might be having more reliance to public interest, more reliance to paperwork, or more reliance to focusing on the rules, regulations. These are quite more important. You cannot bypass certain rules in government sectors where for improving efficiency, this may be considered as a great step in private sector. So in all these cases, we need more ideas to infuse into the government system. Similarly, governing efficiency is a part of all of these. The governing efficiency obviously will increase. In promoting healthy competition, that means there is from competition between, say, outside lateral entrants as well as the career bureaucrats. If there is like you are getting promotion, to get the promotions instead of the fixed promotion system, you are getting a competition from the outside world. So obviously there will be more motivation for the career bureaucrats to deliver more. Bridging private public-private sector gaps. Again, this is connected to brain drain. At least some of you may be aware of the statement by the ISRO chairman. ISRO has gone to prominent IITs recently for recruitment, and what the chairman has told about this whole exercise was 90% of the students will just not attend this recruitment drive by ISRO simply because of the payment structure of ISRO. When students of IITs are getting say about 12 lakh packages, ISRO is offering a package of say basic pay of 56,000, which is considered unacceptable. Now again we have these increasing differences between private sector and public sector, which at some point we need to bridge it so that there is no bias in brain drain out of not just outside the public sector, outside the country also. Enhancing participatory governments, again the involvement of the people or the quality of good governance, all this is somewhere or other linked with what kind of people we have this in the system. And having different entry points, it is quite important for having an efficient system. What are the challenges? Reservation concerns. We have a system that is strongly based on social justice. We cannot compromise our caste or in representation of different groups at all levels of the government. Again, this lateral entry, we still don't have any settled system. We still don't know what kind of people or how the principles of reservation or social justice can be integrated into this private sector. So we need a clarity on this. We need policies on this. Until unless we don't have any clarity on this, government cannot just come and release a notification one day and recruit in the other day. First settle the confusions. So this is maybe the reason government has swiftly withdrawn this particular application also. Cultural misalignment, again UPSC preparation or government jobs, this is considered as so much of a cultural significance. Again, this is unacceptable, like without examination you are recruiting at higher ends, that will be considered as unacceptable to a huge sections of the society. Resistance from career bureaucrats. Anyway, career bureaucrats are going to resist it, whether it is reforms, whether it is lateral entry, there should be some opposition. Even government has already done this lateral entry drive, say around 6 people were recruited in few 4-5 I think years before. Now what happened to most of these people have resigned from these jobs. Why they have resigned from these jobs? They were not able to work within these limitations of government system. They were not able to gel with the already existing career bureaucrats who sees them as somebody who has came from outside to take away their promotions. So they find it extremely difficult, especially when the bureaucrats are recruited for 3 years. So what's the benefit for a particular private sector employee to come to this government system for 3 years? Again, there is concept of conflict of interest. He may have undue influence on government decisions, on tenders, and he may help certain companies which he was earlier a part of. So there is a risk of conflict of interest. So because this tenure is too low to have any substantial, think of any long-term career options. So all these things need to be taken into considerations before we actually institutionalize this idea of lateral entrance. So you can cite about this recent government episode where this lateral entrance notification has been done and withdrawn by the government, and the need for clearing the clarification, bringing in clarifications before you can say about like streamlining these processes. We need some kind of a established system on what basis the recruitment will be done, how the social justice concern, how the career path concerns, how the worries of these internal bureaucrats, career bureaucrats, how these conflict of interest concerns, how these things will be settled, how these things will be handled. We need a clarity on this, or policy measures should be taken, maybe through a parliament route government should take actions. It is not that the concept of lateral entry is wrong. Concept of lateral entry is never a wrong idea. It's something government can look into. It has its own merits. But what is need of the hour is there should be clarity on how it is going to be implemented. It should not be like this, certain government loyalists are being recruited and government is like bypassing the traditional merit based system to bring in their loyalists into the governance system. That should not happen, and we need clarity on a lot of other factors. That is the first thing before we can bring in this or institutionalize or materialize the concept of lateral entries. Go through the fourth question, then we will continue our discussions. Sorry. Yeah, what is the question? Discuss the significance of PM Narendra Modi's visit to Kyiv. Again, don't confuse on where it is, Kyiv. How will it impact India's relations with Russia? Again, very straightforward question, easy to address. There is no too much of confusion in the question. First part, introduction, you can write about Prime Minister's visit to Kyiv. Second part, that is what is has significance. Significance, I expect 5 points regarding this. Third part, that is impact, is being asked. We will discuss how we are going to deal with this. Then a conclusion on this particular prime minister visit to these set of countries like Ukraine and Poland and all these countries. So this is what is expected. I need 5 points here, I need 5 points here. This is where I'm going to award you marks. This is where you are going to get marks. So don't compromise on these parts. These two are fillers for me. You should be aware of the context of this visit. That is all only I'm expecting from intro and conclusion. But the significance as well as impact, you should explore more on this. So the first part, that is about Prime Minister visit. Prime Minister marks the first visit by Indian Prime Minister to Ukraine. Ukraine, again, this is a state that is came out of USSR on disintegration in 1991, and after 1991 the country has been formed. This is the first visit by a Prime Minister to these countries. So it is a landmark event. It is celebrated as Prime Minister, no Prime Minister has visited the other countries also, Poland for last 4 or 5 decades, and Prime Minister is the first person to visit this. You can cite this information regarding this. Again, if you don't remember this, you can cite the month also, August 2024. You can give this information also in the introduction. Second, significance. What is significance? Again, there was a lot of question over India's stance in this Russia-Ukraine war. Is India standing with Russia? Why these confusions were coming up? Majorly because of two reasons. Because India, when the Western, what is the Western response to Russia-Ukraine war? The Western response was the path of sanctions. The Western countries, almost every country, the Western European countries as well as USA has put sanctions on these Russian companies. That means they are not going to do trade with these Russian companies. But if you look at this profile of Russia's economic growth, they hasn't been too much of affected. Despite war happening at one side, despite Western sanctions, Russian economy is still surviving. How they are surviving? Because there has been increase in trade with two countries, two major economies of the world. One is China and the other one is India. India has more than 200 times increased the oil consumption, oil imports from Russia after the war has broken out. Why India is too much interested in buying this oil? Because Russia is offering a deep discounts for Indian companies or Indian trade. So that's why India was interested, and your foreign minister E. Shankar has defended this in multitude platforms, and he was very confident in saying that how much oil India has brought, that is still considered lesser than how much gas the European countries has brought from Russia since the war has brought out. So we have a population which requires energy at lower prices. We are a country which depends for 85% of our crude oil requirements are being imported from other countries. So we require oils at lesser prices, and Russia, doing trade with Russia is our practical options before this. Since West is saying one idealism, and through the under the table they are buying the gas from Russia. You might have been heard about the Nord pipelines and all. So one trade between Europe and Russia is going under the table. On the other side, we are speaking about idealism, sanctions. So this is happening, then we are also going to buy this oil from Russia. That was stance of India, quite very clear. And if you look at the UN SC as well as UN, so many like allegations, so many the sanctions against Russia. That's how India kept away from voting. India didn't vote it against Russia. So this also has raised concerns. What is India's stance? For whole throughout the independence, we have been followers of idealist Nehruvian idealism. That India was never able to come above this Nehruvian idealism of foreign policies. Even Modi's proactive strongman politics based foreign policy, it still contains elements of non-alignment and this idealism of Nehru, Jawaharlal Nehru. So in this context, where India is doing, where India is standing, there was so much of confusion. There was so much of confusion in the West also on regarding India's stance. Are we supporting Russia in this particular war? Are we deviating from our traditional moral-based stamp policy making? So this all is going to get a full stop after the Prime Minister visit to Ukraine. India is clearly saying India is not neutral. India is for peace. India is reasserting its commitment for peace. India is exploring its role as a mediator in this particular case. India is supporting rule of law or international law. India is expanding its humanitarian aid to Ukraine. So India is playing its active role in this particular war. India is not taking a stance of neutrality or one-sided. Potential economic and trade discussions. We already have this European Free Trade Agreement that has been signed by India and a lot of four set of European countries. So we are so much interested in trade with Eastern Europe, trade with free trade agreements with Central Asia as well as other European countries. So this is Europe ties with Ukraine is going to give a boost to this. Then cultural exchange. We have already had a lot of medical students in Ukraine who has been affected by this. So all these possibilities you can bring into your answers. But this is the crux of significance. The next part, impact, like I have already told, wherever that is course of action or you can say way forward is being asked, you should answer, you should contain immediate as well as long term aspects. Similarly, wherever there is impact is asked, explore positive and negative impacts. What can be the positive impacts? Strengthened India's global image, rule support for rule of law, that's similar to the significance. Improved relations with the West, enhanced strategic autonomy. That means the non-alignment's new word is strategic autonomy. Similarly, what can be the negative impacts? Potential strain in India-Russia relations. Already India-Russia relations have the strain of delayed defense supplies. Even the S-400, one of the most celebrated India-Russia defense ties, despite there is strong comments from US, sanctions, threat of sanctions from US, India has gone ahead with this $5 billion US deal, trade deal, or you can say defense deal with Russia for supply of S-400 anti-missile system, but that due to this war and other challenges that is being delayed. Again, security and energy security concerns, because we are getting oil out of these, and this is also under concern. Geopolitical tensions, that means where India is standing, whether India is standing with Russia or USA, or what exactly is India's stance in geopolitical position, that is going to be coming under a lot of radar during these times. So these are some of the negative consequences. Then you can conclude the answer by using some of the keywords. Again, the talks of Prime Minister, words of Prime Minister or Foreign Minister, learn some of these words so that you can use in some of the answers. Friend and partner, dialogue and diplomacy. This is what India's keywords or takeaways from PM's visit to the key. You can use these words, keywords, and finalize your answers. Go through the fifth question, then we will continue our discussion. Yeah. What is the question? Reassess India's neighborhood first policy in wake of recent political turmoil in India's neighborhood. Mostly what turmoil it is speaking about is speaking about the turmoil in Bangladesh that recently resulted in ouster of Sheikh Hasina. But it is not turmoil in Indian neighborhood, it is not limited to Bangladesh. We already seen a balance of payment crisis in Sri Lanka. We have already seen Afghanistan having Taliban takeover. We have already seen a military junta in Myanmar. So India's unsettling in India's neighborhood, that is something that is recurrently happening in all these countries. So that is the base of this or the context of this particular question. What you can write about introduction, just a brief of this India's neighborhood policy, challenges, what is that is being asked, way forward and conclusion, 5 points in challenges and 5 points in way forward. This is what I expect from your answer. So what is India's neighborhood policy, which you can also cite about this Gurjar doctrine. You can also cite about this in your answers, and you can speak about neighborhood evolution of neighborhood policies, neighborhood first policy. What is exactly a strategic initiative aimed at strengthening relationships with immediate neighbors by promoting peace, stability, and prosperity in South Asia. So that can be your introduction. I'm not over discussing it. Now, what are the challenges to this political instability? Of course, political instability creates a lot of differences. India already have energy ties, nuclear ties, the transportation ties, a lot of initiatives with Bangladesh right now are in confusion. What exactly is the future of all of this? We have investments in Chahabar port in Afghanistan. Again, what is the future of this? After the Taliban takeover, we are uncertain about all of this. Our strategic interests are being compromised with all these developments that is happening. And what is the negative consequence of this? Again, if India's influence is getting threatened, there is always a risk of China's building up its influences. You have seen how China has signed this 25-year investment agreement with Iran. So this has completely changed the narrative of what exactly was Iran's position on a lot of matters. So this is counterproductive for Indian interest. Security concerns, obviously there will be security concerns if China, if some certain ports has been this Hambantota port example in Sri Lanka, which is Chinese government has acquired, and there has been not Hambantota, Colombo, other ports. There has been India security concerns regarding this, economic dependencies and competition, border disputes, with especially with Bangladesh. Already we are seeing tensions in Assam. Already we are seeing Hindus and minorities being attacked in Bangladesh, and what should be India's stance regarding this? Internal political dynamics also going to be affected. Humanitarian refugee in crisis, a refugee influx, how we already don't have any stabilized refugee system or refugee law. We don't have any refugee law. We even not signed this 1951 and 67 protocol to the international refugee law. So in all these contexts, what is going to be our policies regarding this? All these are different challenges. That is the disturbances in the neighborhood that is posing to this India's neighborhood first policy. Now, what is a way forward? Strengthening regional cooperation, balancing relations with major powers. That is counterbalancing strategy. Enhancing economic engagements, addressing security concerns, and promoting people-to-people ties. Quite very generalistic. You can write specific countries example. When it is neighborhood, you can take any of the countries in the neighborhood and give specific example-based explanation for each of these. Then you can cite some of the wordings of the Prime Minister. If you don't exactly remember the wordings, you can paraphrase it like this also and conclude your answer. Pose it and go through it. I'm not spending too much time on this. Let's move to the last question of the day. Sorry. What is fixed dose combination drug, FDC? Discuss its potential benefits and associated risk. So I don't know, unless you read the recent newspaper, you will be aware of fixed dose combination drugs. Recently, the context of this question is Government of India came up with a ban on 156 FDC. Citing some medical risk or other risk associated with these FDCs, government has banned 156 FDCs that was already circulating in the market. So this is the context of this particular question. And we have seen from science and technology, sometimes very specific technical questions has been asked. So that's why we have picked this question. So again, even if you have very fair or simple understanding, you can easily answer this question. Introduction, you can write about what exactly is FDCs. Again, this introduction will be a part answering the first part of your question also. Whenever your introduction is answering a part of your question, I am not expecting a two-line introduction. I am expecting an extended introduction. Second part of the answer, again, potential benefits, I need 5 points. Associated risk, I need 5 points. Conclusion, you can either conclude with by bringing in some way forward elements, or you can either conclude by citing the recent developments like the government ban on 156 these FDCs. You can cite that and conclude your answer. So yeah. So what is fixed dose combination drug? It is a pharmaceutical product that contains 2 or more active pharmaceutical ingredients combining in a fixed ratio within a single dosage form. That means there are certain diseases. With cold come the fever, with cold some XYZ diseases will also come. So you are creating a drug, instead of giving separate pills for the patients, you are combining these APIs or dosages within for certain common diseases and creating a single pill. That is what F disease is all about. Again, if you give some certain examples, that's great. Antimicrobials like amoxicillin and chaulanic acid, which is very most common F disease. Anti-tubular drugs, antiretroviral drugs. All these are certain examples. At least one example, if you can replicate in your answer, that's great. Now, what are the potential benefits of this? Improved medication compliance. That means you don't need patient to take n different medicines. Just take one medicine. Enhanced therapeutic efficacy. Reduce adverse effects. Cost effectiveness. That means one medicine is enough for 2-3 different, you can say, these diseases. Convenience, improved disease management, potential to reduce burden pill. All these examples like health benefits or patient level, what is the benefit? Then at systemic level, that is the benefit. Then at disease management level, what is the benefit? You can think on these different compartments and at least 1-2 points on each of these compartments. You will write a wonderful answer. No worry about this. So this is how you should do. What is the health benefits of this? That means better efficacy, better effectiveness on certain diseases. Patient level, lesser burden on pill burden, lesser financial burden, lesser pressure of taking huge pills. All this. What are systemic benefits? You are not missing out certain pills or diseases. What is disease management? That means better management, better identification, better working on certain diseases which have, when applied in quantum basis. Again, there is a side effects, concept of side effects also. That means if you are taking one certain medication or API in a huge quantity, the effect of side effects may be like huge. But if you are taking different APIs of different chemicals, sometimes the side effects are nullified or subsided. So these are different benefits of using FDCs. Similarly, what are the associated risks? increased risk of adverse effects. Again, you can think on the same lines: disease management, patient, system level, doctor level, all these 5 levels, industry level, the pharmaceutical industry also being impacted by this particular ban on this disease. So that also becomes a part of it. You need not limit your answer to only the health related points. You can diversify in that aspects. Challenges in identifying side effects, from which API the side effects are coming from. Sometimes it becomes unclear what exactly is creating the problem. Lack of individualized dosing. We are speaking about personalized medicines. We are living in an era where your genetic information, genome sequencing is being done, and we are speaking about medicines that is tailored for your genetic needs. So in a era where this personalized, tailored approaches are becoming a reality, why we should waste time on these kind of FDCs where you are taking an unnecessary APIs or unnecessary medicines also along with the necessary medicines. Regulatory and safety concerns, irrational combinations which can lead to unnecessary side effects or unnecessary effects on the body. Similarly, the industrial impact, how it is going to impact these companies which are producing this 156 FDC medicine. So all these are different risks and concerns. Again, in conclusion, either you can go for a way forward based conclusion, or you can cite the recent ban, or you can use this information in intro also. If you are not using in intro, then you can use this in conclusion. Another approach will be use this in intro, then define FDCs, then in conclusion come up with a balanced way forward based conclusion. Either of the approaches you can utilize here. So again, you can conclude in this manner. So that's all for the discussion. We have discussed 6 topics. Tomorrow, again on the same time, we'll be having discussion on 6 more topics. So again, the focus of the whole classes, that is the content is on the minimal part, that is just you are already aware of a majority of the things we are discussing. You may be going through the newspapers. The content is not our key purpose of all this discussion. Rather, the key purpose is how you are developing the points, how you are structuring your answers. Whatever the face-to-face discussions or copies I am going to see, whatever who have followed these classes, I don't want to see any mistakes in structuring the answers. This is one particular mistake which you should completely eliminate. So on that note, we will wind up today's session. If you have any issues, if you want your copies to be shown in ethics or in any other subjects, you can reach out to the face-to-face discussions on your particular copies. And on that note, we will wind up the session. Thank you so much and all the best.